Urban Therapy with Sun 752. With this your daily go getimism number 507 for February 22nd, 2016. You know, some things we get into in our lives, and sometimes we are born into some things. That's what we're going to talk about tonight, being born into some things. There are some things that we're born into. You know, life deals us a certain set of circumstances. Some of those circumstances we get are of our own doing, of our own creation. And some things we come into. The things that we're born into are the things that shape us in our lives. You know, as soon as we come out of the womb, the things that we're being taught, the way that we're being raised, the way that we've been groomed, the things that we are taught to value, our moral system, you know, the way we deal with our friends, the way that we look at our family, the way that we deal with people who are close to us, and the way that we deal with strangers. All of these things have a lot to do with the way we were born. That we were born into some things, because the people who raise us from the time that we are born are going to be the ones who put the information into us. And the way we process that information is going to have a lot to do with the people who are putting the information in. It's just like a computer. You know, when you put software into a computer, it's going to work the way the programmer programmed it. It can't work any other way. When human beings, when we're born into some things, although the programmer has put the information or given us the information a certain kind of way, as we learn, as we grow, as we meet new people and we have new experiences, we're able to change the way that we think about certain things. However, it's really hard to sway us away from the way that we're taught when we're very young, because that's when we're young, that's when we're impressionable, that's when we form our views of what a hero is and a villain is. So if we are born into parents or guardians that raise us in an irresponsible way, then it's going to be hard for us to look at irresponsibility as a bad thing. I'm going to give some examples because it ain't hard. You know, if you're dealing with parents who are violent, so if they deal with every situation that frustrates them with violence, then the likelihood that the child is going to be violent is going to follow that. I mean, that ain't hard to tell. You know, this is bigger than just parents spanking their kids as a punishment when the kids do something that they have already been taught was wrong. This is different from that. If every situation that a child sees their heroes, which are their parents, get into, if they see their parents handle every situation with violence, anytime they get angry, anytime they get frustrated, anytime they can't have their own way, then the child is going to think that that's okay. You know what I mean? Punch their way out of things, slap their way out of things, stab, shoot their way out of things, eliminate problems instead of working problems out. You know, beat problems into submission instead of talking things out, working things out, negotiating things, trying to settle things amicably, cooperating. And it's funny because when we go to school, we learn things like cooperation. We learn to work with others. We learn to be friendly. We learn to work with others instead of being violent towards others. However, if you're born to parents who will back you for being violent, like, okay, remember when we were younger, a lot of our parents told us to protect ourselves. So they told us if somebody hits us, then we hit them back. But it didn't stop right there. You know what I mean? Our parents also made sure that they didn't teach us to hit first. Every parent doesn't teach their child that. Some parents will get word of a suspension that their child is faced because the child may have been a bully, or a child may have been really, really violent, and the parents know that the child is violent because they're like that at home. And I mean, the child is like that at home. And more than likely he got it from the parents. More than likely, maybe not 100% of the time, but somebody has instilled that in a child. Because one of the ways that children learn is when they are taught that certain things are okay. Once a child gets the okay to do things, then that's what they're going to do. That's how we learn. So if you go up to the school to retrieve your child after a suspension, or to take your child back to school after a suspension, and you haven't taught the child other ways to cope to make sure that they don't get suspended again, what's going to happen? You already know that you put the software in. You put the software in. You the programmer, you put the software in. Now that shit is out of control, and there's going to be a lot more parent teacher visits, and then that may turn into court dates later on, and the whole thing spirals out of control. But they were born into this. See, we're born into a whole lot of things. I gave you that example, but some things we're born into, and we have the obligation to either continue that or to break away. Like, you could be born into a really negative situation, and then once you learn how to do better, you can break away from that situation. Yeah, you may have been born into it, but you're not going to live that life. And maybe you've decided not only are you going to not live that life, but you're going to make sure that your children don't live that life either. A lot of people experience this when they go to the military. Maybe they were raised in a very chaotic, violent, crazy, irresponsible household, but they instead of dropping out of school or finishing school and going to work, they decided to go into the military. And they learned a whole lot of things in the military about discipline, and they saw the world, and they realized that there's a bigger world out there besides the one that they were born into, and they changed their world around them. It's not a bad thing. You know, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And then there's some people who were born into really positive situations. Maybe you were born into a situation where your parents were very academically astute. Maybe they were very financially successful. Maybe they had means of providing for you that gave you privileges that your peers didn't enjoy. Of course, naturally you would want that for your children as well, but that's not necessarily how it plays out all the time. Sometimes parents who are able to provide for their children over provide for their children, and they spoil them. They don't give them they don't instill the responsibility in their children to let them know that everything can't just be given to them. Some things they have to work for, and some things they have to sacrifice for. If you're born into a situation where there is absolutely no sacrifice, it's going to be hard to learn that. And that's one of the things that sometimes we're born into. Also, certain diseases and conditions we are born into. Now, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that a lot of these diseases and conditions that we thought we were born into, it's really not like that. Like diabetes, we think that when there is a diabetic trait in our DNA, that it's going to be hard for us to escape it, but that's not true. There's new evidence to suggest that it's really all about lifestyle, and a certain kind of lifestyle runs in families. Now, the baby comes out with diabetes, like fresh out the womb, newborn with diabetes. That may have a lot to do with the diet of the mother while carrying the child. That's also lifestyle. That's not necessarily genetics. And maybe lifestyle can carry over into genetics, but we do have the power to break those things. Even heart disease. If you study heart disease, and a lot of people have studied heart disease, we think that it runs in families. And like a family like mine, it does run in my family, heart disease. Does it mean that I'm going to be inflicted with it? It's possible. But one thing that's consistent also in a family like mine is we eat certain things, and we there's certain things about the way that we live that are conducive to promoting heart disease. So is it really genetic, or has our lifestyle choices crossed over into genetics. I know one thing, I'm working hard to break that cycle. I ain't with all that. There are things that you can do. The things that you're born into don't necessarily have to be the things that you live out. And you don't have to birth your own children into that. And when I say your children, I don't even mean necessarily biological, because you can give birth to anybody. Once you learn something new and you change the way that you look at things, you are reborn. That's what it is. You see, like when somebody is a born again Christian, you don't see them coming out of the womb again. You don't be like, oh, yo, I found Jesus. Cut the umbilical cord. That's not the way it goes. You change this. And once you change this, you change that. And you're born again. So the things that you are born into changes. They change, they can improve, or they can change for the worse, and they can deteriorate and get worse. Born into this. It is what it is. We have the power to do a whole lot of things that we don't use our power for. But if you're born into a situation where people take control and exercise their real power. See, we use the word control to mean something bad all the time. We got to get out of that. You got to get out of that. Control means that you are navigating and steering something in a certain direction. It doesn't mean telling somebody what to do, punching, slapping, threatening, and all of that. It means that you are taking control. That means that you are steering something. It means that you are directing something. It means that you are making sure that something has a purpose and a direction. So being controlling can be a great thing if you're controlling something positively. You know what I mean? We got to get out of this domestic violence type of thinking. And that's another thing that some people are born into. Believing that domestic violence is the way. Well, violence, period. Whether it's domestic or whatever. You know, like, we're born into that. We think that it's right. But our prison systems are full of people who didn't know how to control themselves in a positive direction. Because they were born into some bullshit. Not all of them. Like I said, we can break away from negativity or we can break away from positivity, but we do have some control and we do have some power. Maybe tomorrow we'll talk about power. Yeah, let's do that. Good things happen to those who wait. Great things happen to those who grind. And anything can happen to those who go for theirs. So go hard and go for yours. And remember that when you're born again, that means that you change your mind and you change the environment around you. This is your third eye right here. Your third eye is your mind. And once you change your mind, you change your universe. You expand your universe. Your universe is just what you know. So the more that you learn, you expand your universe. It's simple. It's not all that hard. You know what I mean? Peace to the God. My old head, back in 1994 taught me that. You expand your universe. So if you die today, whatever you learned is all you're going to know. So it's important to keep reading, to keep learning, to keep, being reborn. So you expand your universe and it gets larger and larger for you, and so do your possibilities and your options. And you can also spread that out to other people that you know. So you can give birth to them and help them be reborn again and again themselves. I'll holler at y'all tomorrow. Mind Right and Body Better Fitness Program. But this weekend on Saturday is the Take the Fall event. I'm going to holler at y'all about that though as time goes on. Peace.